Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy Pros. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined by Jake Ciely from The Athletic. We are talking waivers for Week 10. We are into the double-digit weeks here. Jake, I'm filling in for Joe on this and a couple of other shows this week. So we are talking your 5 waiver priorities. We'll actually go a little deeper than 5. We'll hit on some other names as well, but mainly your 5 waiver priorities here ahead of Week 10. It felt to me, Jake, like this is kind of a week for waivers.
A week for waivers.
Yes.
It's a wee bit of a week for waivers. It was. I mean, there was actually some really bad injuries. Prayers up to Jaden Daniels. Man, the Commanders and 49ers, don't put them in the same room together. But at this point, for finding fill-ins, we're going to get to the list. 2 of them are tight ends. So that just tells you.
Yeah, if the Commanders and Niners ever played at MetLife Stadium for some reason, that would just be the ultimate, oh boy.
Forget about it. I'm still waiting for one of them to get dysentery, although you're too young to play that game.
No, I'm familiar with the reference. I did not play Oregon Trail, but I at least understand the reference. Just a quick reminder for everybody, all of our weekly consensus rankings and tiers as we get in later to the week can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. The guy we're going to mention first, it's not really on the main list of your priorities, but we have to talk about Kyle Monangai. He's somebody that a lot of people did pick up, when DeAndre Swift was out, just given the matchup against the Bengals. And boy, did he deliver. Even without getting in the end zone, he had an amazing game. Is he somebody that you think DeAndre Swift needs to be out in order for him to provide value for managers going forward? Or do you think this was an impressive enough performance when he was given this bell cow opportunity that he will eat more into Swift's workload when Swift is back?
I think it's more the latter, but I think more the latter also, the reason we're talking about this is because trade opportunities here before you start getting trade deadlines are coming up, and the NFL trade deadline, obviously, but our trade deadlines being a little bit different is that if you look at the Bears and it is Ben Johnson, everybody knew the split is something that he wants. But I actually think that he's going to replicate what he did in Detroit with Gibbs and David Montgomery. And in that case, Monangai is David Montgomery. Yes, he can pass catch, but so can David Montgomery. They're both not the same as Swift and Gibbs. So the upside here is that now you potentially have an RB3, just like Montgomery, any given week who has top 10 upside. It's going to be fluctuating when Swift is back, but that's where I say the sell high opportunity might be, because people might be overreacting. If you're shallow, inexperienced leagues, to be like, oh my God, Monangai's taking over. Swift is coming back. He lost his job. That's where you're able to sell high and potentially even buy low on Swift. I do think Swift is going to get knocked down from, he was fringe RB1 range. Now he's a solid RB2, still has upside, but now Monangai is also somebody you can start going forward. But as you just said, if Swift were to be out again, we're talking about Monangai as an RB1 anytime. It's David Montgomery. We're just repeating the Lions basically at this point, just lesser version of the Lions.
And Monangai is well over the kind of roster.
Yeah, 71%.
Look at, but just, he should be 100, right? He should be more, even though he's over the threshold we usually look at. So Monangai, I have him in a lot of got him in a lot of rookie drafts this year. Big fan, getting the opportunity, really excited. And again, it was a terrible the worst run defense. So it was a great.
That's
matchup,
part of it too.
Terrible matchup. Yeah, that went a long way. But I think he's a good player and a good enough offense when he gets the opportunity that I think he's going to do some cool things. Let's get to the 5 waiver priorities for Week 10 here. Who's the first name you want to talk about?
Parker Washington. That one kind of feels like the obvious one, but this is one that I want to talk about, but also let's talk about what to expect, because Brian Thomas got hurt again. We know we got the Travis Hunter news on Friday. You're welcome, everybody, for trading for him less than 24 hours before that in the industry league, because that's just what happens. So you can blame me for that one. But Parker Washington, I want to talk about is yes, he is a must add. Yes, go get him everywhere. Yes, he's got a lot of value running out of that slot option with the Jaguars, which is appealing, and that's the excitement there, but a little smaller size, and nobody's going to be shocked to be like, oh my God, I didn't know Parker Washington was that size. So we're hoping the volume offsets it, but here's the problem. We've seen this before with wide receivers who aren't supposed to be the team's number ones because they're not NFL number 1 wide receivers, and then they struggle, especially against tougher matchups. Washington, well, not Washington, the team, but Parker Washington gets to go to Houston on the road this week, which has a really good defense, which is a really bad matchup for Trevor Lawrence and Washington. So yes, it's a must add. He's the number 1 on this list, but I wouldn't expect more than wide receiver 4 value and inconsistency, both because of the team and that I would prefer Parker Washington with Brian Thomas, to put it that way.
In a better waivers week, Parker Washington would be the 5th name on this list. And it's it makes a lot of sense, right? There's not, Travis Hunter on IR, all this stuff. Brian Thomas Jr. banged up a bit, but for him to be like kind of at the top here is like tougher.
Just tells you what this week is like.
Yes. I'm doing the show with Debro and Fitz, the larger waivers show, later on this morning. And Parker Washington is very high on that list as well. And it's like, that just feels gross. But it is what it is. He's 25% roster percentage right now. Let's go to, there's 2 tight ends that we have coming up next year. We can kind of almost loop them together. Luke Musgrave, obviously Tucker Kraft, likely tearing his ACL. I don't think they've officially announced it yet, but they're usually pretty right about that if they're predicting it early. Really, really tough for the guy who was just awesome, like the breakout tight end of the season. So Luke Musgrave, who was drafted higher than Kraft in that same draft by the Packers, get more of an opportunity here. And then Colston Loveland, who had the huge game-winning play at the end of that insane Bears-Bengals game yesterday. And obviously, has his top 10 draft pick capital, a guy that people were really interested in, like kind of in the same range as Tyler Warren in drafts in August. And then that, looks very wrong pretty immediately, but maybe he becomes kind of a second half breakout guy. Cole Kmet dealing with an injury there as well. So Musgrave and Loveland are your 2 tight ends here. Do you have one that you like better? I mean, Loveland maybe the better player, but Musgrave the better opportunity.
That's a great way to put it. But if you're also talking about week 10, you get the Bears home to the Giants and then Packers home to the Eagles, who continue to beef up. By the way, speaking of real trade deadline, keep adding pieces to their defense is something that's concerning about enough. But the difference here is that where Loveland at the beginning of the year, we weren't that excited because of Cole Kmet, but also because Luther Burden as the 3, which ended up being more like Zacchaeus as the 3. But both of those options, there's just so many options, including the backfield, that was like, it's hard for Loveland to do his thing. You go back to Sam Laporta with the Lions under Ben Johnson as a rookie, and there's basically nobody left. Like Evan Ingram, the year when he was a rookie season, when everybody got hurt for the Giants. Like, it's a lot of times these tight ends have nothing else around them. And it's the Tyler Warrens and Brock Bowers are more rarities than the realities. But Luther Burden was out again and banged up. That now stepping into potentially the 3rd option, that being Loveland if Cole Kmet is out. And we started this game seeing Cole Kmet out there, and then he got a concussion and he was out. So that was the upside of Loveland. So if Loveland's in the mix, if no Cole Kmet and Luther Burden continues to be banged up, then Loveland over because of what I expect to be more usage in his offense consistently. Like, I like Musgrave, and I don't know if you saw my face, but we could go back to that draft and everybody called me crazy. I was like, they drafted the better tight end afterwards, and everybody like, you're dumb. And I was like, well, haha, I win that one. I got plenty of things wrong. I can celebrate here and there because I get plenty wrong.
It's very much shades of Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst. Where Andrews goes.
I think you it wasn't you because at the time, but like I think it was Bogman. We had that conversation on this network. Sure, but like the Tyrone Tracy call got wrong this week, so there you go. But the fact is, Jordan Love will spread it around more at times, any given week. Like they're more like the Bills and the Patriots and the Ravens, your Ravens, there you go, is teams that will just take what's given to them. So that's why I have Loveland slightly over Musgrave, because I expect Loveland to be more consistently involved, at least while Cole Kmet is out.
Well, speaking of Jordan Love and the Packers, next name on the list, Christian Watson, who
another Packer.
Yeah, exactly. Some people have been very excited about at different points in his career. I know Debro, our colleague, has had a ton of hype for him in the past. Had the horrible injury, in December of last year. He's back and looks like pretty halfway decent and somewhat healthy, being back on the field. And the Packers offense, we need a much longer episode to dive deeper into what's going on with the Packers in general. But with Christian Watson specifically, are you kind of returning to maybe some of that previous hype? Do you see him as a high upside investment? Or is this just a factor of, again, a weaker waivers week that you got to pick someone?
Yeah, Matt LaFleur, what the hell? Like, talking about their offense and not being able to put in the end zone. I'm like, dude, you call the damn plays. Like, it would start some Michael, I'm looking at the man or starting with the man in the mirror. Like, come on, LaFleur. I know I just ruined the entire podcast by singing. I'm sorry, Worm. You probably never want to experience that again. But the fact is, I will say with Watson, here's the caution and the upside. So I had him for basically since he was coming back in my waiver column over The Athletic. And I was like, Christian Watson, wide receiver 4. When he's out there, he's a top 2 option. He's got the big play upside. He deserves to be in the conversation with Alec Pierce and Kayshon Boutte before he got hurt and Troy Franklin. And that kind of gives you the idea of the names. And people were like a little cool on it. And I understand because they had other options, Romeo Dobbs, and then people were hoping Matthew Golden. So I present all that to say, this is not a one where I'm like, I'm right. This is just also to present this for people not to go overboard. Christian Watson should have been seen as a wide receiver 4. He's healthy, he's producing, but he also still needs to be seen as a wide receiver 4 going forward. Like, just because he had another decent game, it was all basically off one chunk play. That's the risk of Christian Watson. Again, they don't need to go to him every single game. They don't need to face like they have this week against the Eagles at home. Hopefully there's some upside there, but Watson's a wide receiver 4. He's going to have better games than that. He's going to have worse games than that. And that's what I wanted to bring up. And he's very similar to the next player we're about to talk about. But I think this next player, you could argue over him depending on this. Here, you bring up the name and then I'll go into it.
Rashid Shaheed, who's got his own, quarterback stuff going on. He's higher rostered as well, but you just still want to talk about him. So go ahead. Like if you want to make that comparison between Watson and Shaheed here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure in case anybody needs wide receivers, slimmer leagues, and he's sitting out there because I know he got dropped in a lot. There's some of the active teams, him and Mooney, and kind of in that same bucket. We're talking about these wide receiver 4s, but I think there's a chance that if Shaheed's out there, floating out there, that you could have a potential wide receiver 3 on your hands. We talked last week in this situation, and Tyler Shough, the risk of them coming in is that he'd play more poorly. He would take more attempts downfield and what that meant for Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson. And that's exactly what we saw. Chris Olave got hurt by the game. Juwan Johnson saved his day with a touchdown, but what was Shough doing? He was taking shots down the field to Shaheed. Shaheed was actually his number 1 and favorite target in this game. And I'm not saying that's going to have consistency every week in and out, but if you want to argue that you'd rather have Shaheed for the security than Watson for the upside, and that's crazy to say because Shaheed's kind of felt like it. The only reason I put him at 5 is because, like you said, higher rostered, but also risk of being traded. Like this could completely go out the window in 3 days by the trade deadline being over, and everybody's going to be looking at this and be like, she's not even on the Saints anymore, or like whatever it might be. So that's the only reason he's down here.
Some smart potential ads mentioned already. We've got a couple more for everybody else as some bonuses. But first, don't miss out on snagging potential difference makers like these. Use Waiver Central at fantasypros.com/myplaybook or on the Fantasy Pros app to instantly view suggestions on who you should add or drop. Plus, use Waiver Planner to get a complete customized waiver plan for your league, including fab bid submissions, backups bids, and one-click submission for the top fantasy football league sites. Again, that's fantasypros.com/myplaybook. A couple bonus names in here, Jake. Andrei, Iosivas, and Devin Singletary. Why'd you want to include them quickly?
Yeah, and that's why, because Shaheed technically didn't qualify, so I want to make sure, again, that was a conversation. But now to bring in the bonus names. So Tory Horton, obviously if Cooper Kupp is out, we just saw the upside of what he could be. But I like Tory Horton as a stash anyway, even if Kupp is back. He's been in the stashes all year long on my waiver column because there's not just now the risk of Kupp being hurt and out, even if he comes back. There's the risk now for Kupp getting pushed down to the wide receiver 3 role and slot only. And if Tory Horton's playing there, which we wanted to see playing outside alongside Smith and Jigba, that's the appeal there, where it would be more inconsistent if Kupp is active, but somebody that you could look for the upside. Iosivas is obvious. The Higgins situation you have to watch. They're on a bye. That's why he's a bonus. That's why he's not on the list, because if Higgins, we knew were out and the Bengals were playing, I mean, Iosivas, you could argue as being number 2, maybe even number 1 on this list if we knew that. So that's worth why I wanted to bring it up. And then Devin Singletary, because this is what I teased before with Tyrone Tracy. Tracy wasn't an RB2. It wasn't a 60-40 split. It was almost 50-50. It was like 55-45. And then he got dinged up late in the game. So if Tracy is out, Singletary has appeal against the Bears. And even if Tracy's active and you're desperate for running backs in your deeper leagues, it looks like it's going to be a 50-50 split, which sucks because it's on the Giants. But if you need a running back, at least that Singletary was looking like he was also going to get some of the inside the 10-yard work. So you could do worse, but you could definitely do better than Singletary at the same time.
I'm with you on Horton, by the way. Like even if I'm maybe not rushing to start him next week, if Kupp is back, like maybe I want to see how it works out, whatever. I want to have him on my roster. Like I would like to, I want to be invested in Tory Horton. And I do have him in a couple places already. I start all the leagues where I had him. I did start him yesterday. I saw you were kind of tweeting about that too. So I did reap the benefit of that. But yeah, I want to have him on rosters where I don't, and just have him if this does become that second half rookie breakout, if Kupp misses time in the future, whatever it is, I want to have Tory Horton on my roster. So I like that shot as well. Too. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Those were more than 5 waiver priorities here for week 10. For Jake, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.